All right, what is up, Utah fans? This is Joseph back with the Utah Utes Football Digest, and today we're going to be talking about Utah versus USC. Utah is headed to the Coliseum this weekend to take on USC. It should be a heck of a matchup. You know, Utah is going for 4 in a row against USC, and it's super exciting. I think Utah has a ton of advantages, but a lot that we need to watch out for. I'm excited to talk about it tonight. We have the whole crew here tonight. We got Larry Pilgrim, we got Brian Ankrum, San Antonio Ute, and we've got Wild Ute with us, guys. Quite the crew tonight. How are you guys doing tonight? We'll start with you, Larry.
Doing great. How about you guys?
I'm doing well. What about you, Wild Ute?
I'm doing great tonight. I'm feeling good. Here we less than 48 hours before we punk these guys here. Love it.
Well, how about you, Brian? How you feeling?
Excellent. Trash talk's already started in the chat. It's going to be like that for the next 2 days until they wake up miserable Sunday morning.
There you go, dude. And make sure, guys, if you want the Utes to get a huge win against USC this weekend, make sure you guys smash that like button. We're going to be talking about a bunch of different stats, over-unders, that sort of thing for the game. Make sure you guys follow along in the chat. Give your opinion. What do you think is going to happen? And if you have any questions that you guys do want us to touch on, drop those in the chat too. We'd be more than happy to talk about it. Also, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We put out a ton of Utah Utes football content. If that's what you guys are into, this is the place to be, and share the video with a friend. So right out the gate, I want to just hear everyone's initial thoughts. I'm sure I'm not the only one. This has been a super weird week. The least news we've heard about Cam Rising out of any week to date. And it really feels a little odd. I want to hear how you guys are feeling. Brian, San Antonio, let's start with you. How are you feeling going into this USC game? What are your initial thoughts?
I'll kind of how I felt all year. I think the little amount of news is just because there's nothing to report on. They're probably trying to, keep any outside influence from getting the team distracted. I have a feeling Bryson Barnes is going to be lining up behind center yet again. He's had several weeks now taking number 1 reps, including a full game under his belt, where he looked like he started really getting comfortable that second half. I think he's going to do well, and I think Bryson's going to start.
Cool. Good stuff. And we'll talk about who's going to be the starter in a minute. Wild Ute, how are you feeling about the USC game? Just initial thoughts.
I feel optimistic about the game, and here's why. Because nobody's given us a shot to win the game. Nobody's given us a shot. Vegas had 6.5 point open. It's gone to 7. Nobody's picking the Utes. Everyone says it's a foregone conclusion. We should just fold this game right now, guys. Why are we even playing this game? Like, seriously, USC's already won, right? I know this about Utah football. Anytime we're counted out like that, we're going to come punch you in the face. And, USC has it coming for them. They have no idea what, is in for them. This is going to be the most physical football game that Caleb Williams has ever played. I'm telling you guys. This is it. This is the last time we get these guys. And they're not going to play us again. And I know Trey's out there in the comments, USC fans out in the comments. You guys aren't going to play us again. There's no chance you're going to play us again. Why would you? You lose again. And so I'm telling you, this is the last time we have a crack at these guys. We're going to take them out. And it's going to be a physical football game. But I just love the fact that we're underdogs. Historical Utah football, we've always been the underdogs. Physical football, make it tough, make it difficult. And we're back at that spot. So I'm feeling real optimistic because there's nothing to lose because we've already lost the game in the media's eyes.
Hey, you got me pumped up, dude. That was a good little speech there. That got me excited. And you are right. This is the first game where it really, especially this year, where it really feels like we're the underdog in the media's eyes. So I agree 100%. Definitely a reason to be fired up and excited. Larry, why don't you give us your thoughts, man? How are you feeling right out the gate about the Utah USC game?
I'm feeling pretty good. I'm feeling really confident about the defense. Brian, San Antonio, and I was doing some film review. Sorry I couldn't get the video out. My computer's been having some issues. So kind of gave him some keys to look for. And he was able to pick 19 plays before the ball was snapped. I mean, when they talk about Lincoln Riley in the regression at Oklahoma, you can see why he's so predictable. I mean, I feel really good about this defense, and I wouldn't doubt if Andy Ludwig gave Marcus Freeman a few tips, so to speak. I'm feeling really good. The offense worries me, but I think there's a few plays we haven't run yet. I think we got some tricks. We got a lot of guys that can throw the ball that haven't. Sione Vaki can throw it. Jaquindon Jackson can throw the ball. We haven't seen any of those guys. I think we're going to see the bag opened up this game. I'm feeling really good about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I love that idea, dude. And I think you're right. USC's offense has not looked good the past few games. They've definitely been struggling. So really exciting to be a Utah fan. Let's go ahead and start talking about it. Let's talk about a few topics. And like I said, guys, make sure you guys follow along in the chat. I want to hear a lot of different people's opinions. Brian, you already touched on this a little bit. Cam Rising in or out. I won't spend a lot of time on this. I feel like just my thoughts on the whole Cam Rising thing. I don't know about you guys, but there's kind of this weird feeling going into every game where you just like don't know who the guy is every game. And it almost takes away a little from the excitement. So I feel weird about this week. It's so quiet, like I said earlier, that I almost feel like this would make the most sense that it is Cam Rising. But I'm going to go ahead and say Cam Rising's out. I don't see it happening. I hope it does happen, but I'm going to go ahead. My thoughts is he is not in this game. And I almost think that's a good thing if that is the case. And if he's out for the season, he's out for the season. Let's just get going. Let's work with what we have. We still have a chance for an awesome year with or without Cam Rising. Larry, how are you feeling about Cam Rising in or out?
Oh, 50-50. I mean, sometimes the quiet noise is the loudest. So nobody's talking. I can't get any of my sources to get to their guys. So I don't know, man. I'm thinking 50-50. So
yeah,
flip a coin.
What about you, Wild Dude? How you feeling about it?
Yeah, it's a little eerie, right? All season long, all this chat about Rising and returning. I don't think he's coming back. I'm like at probably 80% probable that he's not. And I'm not sure that that'd be the best decision to come back in a game with this type of pressure to perform and everything. I just don't know if that's really in the Utes' best interest, honestly. Like, there's going to be a rust on them. Like, the risk of re-injury in a game like this is probably high. So I'm just thinking that as much as I want it, and it would be amazing to see Rising beat USC one last time, that'd be like the story of all stories. I just don't really see it happening in all practicality. So, yeah, like 20% or even less than that. Bryson Barnes.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. Brian, you said you don't think Cam's in. You want to elaborate on that?
I just don't think that he's taken any reps in practice this week. I think it's been all Bryson Barnes. Unless everybody is just being super secretive, that's kind of how it's looking. It very well could be that way. It's been a weird year. And this coaching staff keeps everything pretty tight within their inner circle. But I just don't see it happening. Not on the road, not at USC. I was pretty pumped last week, and I said I thought it would happen, but not hearing anything this week. I'm just pretty much convinced it's going to be Bryson, and I'm completely fine with that. I think this offense looked pretty dang good last week. Not great, but it's workable with the type of defense we have.
Yeah, I agree 100%, man. I think this offense looked, I'd say, great. I don't think the passing game looked great, but I think the offense looked great.
Yeah.
I'm pretty excited about the offense heading into this game, man. I'm pretty, really, Sione Vaki got me excited. We'll talk about it in a little bit. And one thing about Cam Rising, shout out to you, Wild You. We know that it hasn't officially happened yet or anything, but you were one of the first people I saw to be vocal about the idea of Cam's medical red shirt. And that felt, what was that, 3-4 weeks ago you were talking about?
Yeah, at least like a month ago. I got blasted for that too, Joseph. Yeah.
And now it's looking pretty real.
I mean, yeah, like the sidestep here, like we've, if that's the case, honestly, guys, we got to think about holding Rising and getting him a big enough NIL contract. He comes back to Utah and doesn't go elsewhere, right? So there's a lot of dynamics in play that the people haven't even talked about if we even bring him back. But I mean, that's ideal for the Big 12, right? Bringing Rising back and getting to the playoff next year. Or him coming back during USC and freaking getting the playoff this year, right? That's what we all want.
Yeah, that's ideal. But if he's not back this year, that would be awesome to get him again
Sure.
next year.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna, like I said, I'm feeling like Cam's not in. Is what it is. Let's talk about the game, fellas. Keys to the game on offense and defense. You know, I kind of like, it's weird. I just want to move on from this whole Cam storyline. I just want to talk about what we'll have and not speculate anything. Who is actually going to be on the field and how are they going to perform? I'm going to give a few of my keys, guys. I think it's pretty clear that running the ball for this offense is so important. I think we have such a good stable of running backs right now. Jaquindon Jackson is a straight animal. We'll talk about him a lot later. Getting him 25 to 30 carries in this game is one of the keys, making sure that he's able to pound the rock a lot, milk that clock, keep the ball out of Caleb Williams' hand, and look awesome. Sione Vaki, kind of a tough one. I think he's going to get a lot of carries in this game. I guess somewhere in the 13 to 18 range, if I'm just guessing. And I think him capitalizing on those and making big plays on those is super important. We don't want 3rd and 5 or more. We want 3rd and 2, 3rd and 1, 3rd and 3 for Bryson Barnes. Capitalize on the offensive opportunities. Don't make stupid mistakes. I would also say be risky. You know this offense can score quite a bit. I think when it's 4th and 1 at midfield, we shouldn't be punting it. We should go 4th and 2. We should be going for it. Our offense with Jaquindon Jackson is rarely stopped for anything less than 4 or 5 yards. So I feel really good about our chances there. On defense, that's probably where, weird enough, that's where my number one concern is. It's with the DBs, right? We have some good DBs, but we also have some DBs I would think are kind of a liability. Making sure that our liability-esque DBs do not give up huge plays and make huge mistakes to let Caleb Williams air it out for 400 yards. So that's where I think the keys are. There's a lot to this game. We're going to break down a lot of it, but that's my initial thoughts. Let's start with you on this one, Brian. What do you think the keys to the game are on offense and defense?
Yeah, I had very similar offensive keys to the game. We have to run the ball. We have to control the line of scrimmage, which I think we can do against this USC team. You know, I posted quite a few rankings this week over the course of the year so far, and they give up like 150 rushing yards a game. They've given up almost 180 the last 3 games. So now they're going to face a team that really likes to put the ball on the ground. That, you know, Notre Dame is kind of that similar type of team. And, you know, look how that went for them. So I think that's the key to our game. In order to do that, we're going to have to open up the passing game early and make them respect it so they don't just stack the box. If we can't get any passes downfield, it's going to be a tough night sledding. Defensively, I think the number one key is pressure. Put pressure on Caleb, especially with a 4-man front or even rushing 3. You know, drop some guys back into coverage. If we can put pressure with the base package, it's going to be another rough night for Caleb. I think we can put pressure on him. Their offensive line looks terrible. I just don't see them getting any better. They're very concerned about it. They have one pretty good offensive lineman. I think it's Monheim, left tackle. So he'll be going against Jonah Ellis. It's Jonah versus Jonah from what it looks like. So that'll be a tougher matchup for Ellis. Well, it'll be a tougher matchup, you know, because it's one of their better offensive linemen. But I think it'll be a tougher matchup on Monheim going against the best defensive edge in the entire country, or edge rusher in the entire country. So, you know, if we can get that pressure without having to blitz just a whole lot, I still think we dial up our blitz packages and try to light him up. It's worked well in the past. As Larry was saying, I think that they can be very predictable at times. And if Scally is onto that, it could be a an ugly evening for Mr. Williams. I'm not worried about our defensive secondary. They've given up yards this year because we've been basically trying to only stop the run against all these teams. We haven't been worried about any of these teams beating us downfield, for the most part. We haven't played a very good passing team yet, so the game plan's going to switch a little bit. These guys are, these DBs have had their eyes in the backfield all year up to this point. So, I am concerned a little bit. They are going to beat us long. I mean, this team is built with a ton of talent and a ton of speed. I mean, it's what they do to everybody. If we can limit those plays that go for massive chunk yardage and even touchdowns, then we win this game.
Those are good points, man. Good points. And just so you know, speaking of Jonah Ellis, I mentioned it when I was doing the trenches breakdown. There are only 2 Power 5, or I think it's all of FBS. There's only 2 FBS players at edge rusher that have a higher PFF grade than Jonah Ellis, and both of them have over 100 snaps less than he does. So it is pretty clear Jonah Ellis is the best edge rusher in all of college football. The grades say it, the stats say it. I mean, this guy, I'm hoping he has a huge night. So thanks for mentioning him, Brian. Wild, you're up next, man. What do you think?
Offensively, clock control. Like, we all know this, but it needs to be said anyway. Did you guys ever play NCAA football 2012, 2013 before EA Sports?
Bro, I have a PlayStation 3 just so I can play
Hey, there you go. So you know when you go in clock control mode and stuff, and you're conservative and you bleed the clock in the first quarter on a different team. Utah has to play that way. You have to limit possessions for Caleb Williams. It's going to be, we need to slow this game down, bleed the clock from the first snap of the game. And that's how this game needs to go offensively. And also, in addition to being conscious about the clock management, you have to take risks, guys. We are the underdogs in this game. We're full touchdown underdogs. You have to go for it on 4th down. If it's even questionable, you have to go for it. Where's a fake punt? I want to see a fake punt. I haven't seen a fake punt since 2015 Oregon. Seriously, it's been that long. Like, where is this stuff? Like, give me some risk. Give me some chances that you wouldn't typically do, maybe on special teams or elsewhere, because you need something like that for some juice to win this game, offensively and special team wise. So they're going to run it. We have to run it because our passing game isn't that good. Let's be honest about it. I mean, if we can get our passing game going, that'd be awesome, but we can't depend on it. So really running the clock, bleeding the clock, and the occasional pass to convert a 3rd down. That's really the offensive game plan, and trying to get in the end zone as much as possible by taking some risks. That's really offensively how I see it. Defensively, you guys alluded to this. Somebody alluded to this on a video this week, but how to play Caleb Williams. So Caleb Williams is good inside the pocket, and he's excellent outside the pocket.
I think it was Brian.
Yeah, in San Antonio, when he's running left or right, he plays like Patrick Mahomes, guys. Like, he's nails. Yeah. He's going to paint somebody on the run, like for touchdowns all the time. You cannot let him escape the pocket. You have to make him a pocket player, and he's good, but you have to collapse on that pocket. You can't just do those oversized rushes like San Antonio was saying in that video. Like, you just can't go balls in and just rush him. You have to do almost like a delayed rush to keep the pocket's integrity, keep him in there and stuff so he can't escape it. If he escapes the pocket, he's totally toast, guys. You have to do that like Caleb Williams. You have to play disciplined ball. That's Jonah Ellis. That's Fillinger. So all those guys need to be aware of how to play that. They did that last year. We've done this before. We know to play Caleb, but that integrity in the pocket, they're going to get passing yards. I mean, they're going to get a lot of yards. This is USC offense. You just can't give up points. Field goals, hold them to field goals, no touchdowns, limit the touchdowns, and then again on offense, just pound it, and make this game incredibly physical. This is not a finesse game for the Utes if we're going to win. It's got to be a physical football game where they're just bruised at the end of this game, and they never want to play Utah again. It's the last time they ever want to play Utah. Never again. They hate that U. So that's the key to victory here, offensive, defensively.
Hey, good thoughts, Wild. Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you said there. I think we have a pretty similar idea, especially on offense. Pound the rock, milk the clock. Do not be super conservative. I'd be shocked if this offense puts up no points. Like, they're going to put up some points. Be aware of that fact and make sure we are addressing that on offense and not playing too safe. Larry, what are your thoughts, man? What are the keys to the game, offense and defense?
Oh, first I got to mention Trey. I think he's jacked up like a spider monkey on Mountain Dew here in the chat.
Spider monkey on Mountain Dew.
Yeah. You know what I'm talking about, Chip. Anyway, I think our keys on defense, I don't think we should have Bad and Fillinger on the weak side. The first game, we had issues with Van Fillinger over there trying to shut down Caleb escaping. But as soon as we had Gabe Reed over there, who is a little bit quicker, you're going to have a lot more success. Caleb on his strong side, when he goes to his left, he's nowhere near. If you watch Notre Dame, like he had the one intercept, he's just not good on his left. He's not as good. So you've got to keep him definitely not rolling right and have somebody to kind of get in his head defensively. I think those are the keys. USC's not too bad if you bull rush them. If you stunt on them, they have a problem reach blocking and pulling. They're not a great line. So I think those are the keys on defense. Scalley's going to have to call the right play at the right time. And then on offense, I think we can't be vanilla. Whoever's playing quarterback has got to pull the trigger on time. He can't wait for things to develop. That's how Cam beat him last time. Those spots are open in Grinch's defense, but you got to commit to running the play and hitting that throw. And so hopefully Barnes can do it. If Cam's in there, I think he can. I think Vaki's he's going to have a hell of a game. I mean, power runners just do really good against USC. If you haven't noticed, any backs with any power do really good. So I'm liking our odds here.
I liked a lot of your comments there, Larry. It's one thing is I think definitely I agreed with you bringing up Fillinger. Just he's not very good at containing the edge, right? Like making sure you don't lose the edge. And hopefully he's either had that addressed in practice, but I doubt that's the case, or we have Connor O'Toole in there or somebody else in there that's really good at holding the edge. Because you're right, Caleb Williams, if you get outside, he's going to make you pay, and he is tough to sack. So you better stay disciplined and not rush inside. The next thing let's talk about is if Utah loses, why does it happen? I mean, for me, you guys, I'm sure you're just like me. You kind of, you get excited. You start picturing the game in your head, like how could it go well? How could it go poorly? You kind of envision yourself, at least I do. I envision myself watching the game, and it's like, if the game goes very poorly, I'm going to go ahead and take a shot in the dark that it is an offensive problem. If I'm going to take a guess, and it could be that they sell out hardcore to stop the run, and our pass game just cannot get anything going. That's kind of how if we do lose this game, it's because they are just stacking that box hardcore, and we just cannot figure out how to get the pass game going. On defense, while we might have some troubles, I brought it up earlier, is the second corner. I think outside of the second corner, we have a super good DB room, but Broughton and Miles Battle tend to make really critical mistakes or really critical plays given up. Hopefully, we are figuring out a way to prevent them from being too much of a crucial part of stopping critical plays on defense. Wild, what do you think, man? If Utah loses, what happens?
If Utah loses, there will be a lot of 3-and-outs on the Ute side because of stacked boxes and running maybe 2 or 3 times in a row right up the middle or something really vanilla that shut down. I doubt it's because of Utah turnovers. It's going to be because of punts. It's because of lack of risks. And so really that's the thing in offense. You got to take some risks. You got to open it up. The passing game needs to get going too. You've got to have a blend here on the defensive side. If they bust out and get a bunch of big plays, and they've got big players, can't give up the big plays. I mean, you're probably going to give up 1, but you can't give up 3, 4, like for touchdowns. Really, I think that the Utes really need to hold this game, so it's less than a 30-point game. At the end of the day. And so these big plays by USC where they're just throwing a 70-yard touchdown, like you just can't do it. And if you're going to do it, just do it once. But if they do it multiple times, we're toast. We can't afford that with our offense. So that's how I see it too. I agree with you, Joseph. So if they stack the box on defense, we can't get the running game going, and it's bland running and then punting. So really, it speaks to the need to take risks in this game. You have to do it if you're going to win this game. So no vanilla offense.
To be fair, I don't see that happening. Just so we're all on the same page. It's not what I see happening.
Well, that happened at Oregon State. That happened at Oregon
but you know
State.
who we didn't have against Oregon State? Does everyone remember who was not in the game against
Jaquindon?
Oregon State? A guy named Jaquindon Jackson, dude.
JJ.
And he literally revitalizes this offense. You can see it. Baki got all the attention last week, but do not doubt what Jaquindon Jackson does for this offense. But I'm with you 100%. Those are probably the reasons it doesn't go well.
What about a quarterback throw too? I mean, Jaquindon played quarterback for so many years. Like, what about a pitch out toss? Like, what about those type of plays?
I've been wondering about that too. Why aren't we trying that? I've been wondering about that for a while, especially because it's like now he's probably one of the most feared rushers in the Pac-12. It's like when he gets the ball, people fly into the box. So I would love to see us do that a little more.
Too yoked to throw the ball nowadays.
Maybe.
Brian, why don't you tell us your thoughts, man? If Utah does lose, why does it happen?
Yeah, so I mean, same type of stuff. It's going to be just completely stale offense. Probably early, where you get several 3-and-outs in a row, and they score, and you get behind, and it's just one of those things where you don't have enough offensive firepower to come back against this team. So I think defensively it would probably be the secondary breaks down a little bit and let some of those long pass plays for touchdowns happen. Combination of the two, but more offensively than defensively, kind of like you all just said.
Yeah. Well, and another good point that I don't know if anyone's brought up yet, Brian, but like when Caleb does scramble out, that the DBs hold their end of the bargain, because it's going to happen. Like you said, he's going to make a few giant plays. Like, I don't think that's going to be completely eliminated from the game. The trick is eliminate it and make sure it doesn't happen often. Larry, what do you think, man? If Utah loses, why does it happen?
Yeah, pretty much. I think we've all covered it. We lose the line of containment, and they get behind our secondary on defense, and then offense. If we just can't establish the line of scrimmage, we're going to need some play action, and like we're all talking about, we can't be vanilla. I mean, the running game's our strength, but it's just hard against a loaded box. So there has to be the threat of a pass.
I've got a question for you guys here.
Yeah.
So what can we afford to give up on defense and win the game still? Like, what part of their offense can we afford to kind of get going? Because we're not going to shut everything down, right? Like, how to game plan around that and give up something? What's it going to be?
I'd say the short passes. Like, if I was going to say something, it's like they actually have a surprisingly good run game. Once you break it down, their running backs, he's pretty good. And then I just think you got to stop them from the giant passes, make them work for every yard. Caleb's been turning the ball over like crazy. And so if he has to work for every play, that's where he made mistakes against Notre Dame, was just trying to make something out of nothing. And like, did you guys see that one where he throws it off his back foot? It's kind of like a little like
pop
tight end fade. Yeah. It's like, he just throws it over and he just throws it too far and it's a turnover. So yeah, that's my thoughts. What do you guys think?
Go ahead, Brian.
You go ahead. I forgot what the question. What was the question again?
Yeah, what can we give up? What can we give up on the defensive side?
I mean, I'm not too worried about their running game. Obviously, I think it's the passing game that I'm obviously pretty terrified about. That's what their bread and butter is. Joseph's right. They do have a good running attack, but I just don't think that's what they're trying to do. It's just something to help open up that passing game. And it's every bit of their running attack, 100% is RPOs. So we stop that. I think or if they get that going, the RPO game where they get some good runs. He likes to do basically pull it out from the running back and sidearm sling it behind the line of scrimmage to the wide receiver, kind of like a wide receiver screen. He does that a lot, and it always happens on the side that the running back is lined up, because he obviously turns to hand it off. So if we give that up, they get massive chunk yards on that. They get 10 to 20 yards of play, it seems like, when that thing works. So if we can eliminate some of that as well, I would be really happy, because that'll keep them from just kind of just beating us up down the field, first down, touchdown. So I hope we see a lot of press man and then safeties over the top.
Like deep over the top.
By the way, I did block Trey. It was just getting just a little ridiculous. So
thank you. I was going to ask if there was a block feature.
I usually let people troll a little bit, but when it's like that's all you see in the chat, it just gets kind
of. I liked that he couldn't even spell. He spelled Jaquindon like Jaclinden with a KL, and
Trey was waiting for this one.
Our guys blew him up.
Somebody,
11 years old.
Somebody should send Caleb. That guy's got stalker. Like the way he was nut riding,
right there, dude.
Like, man, that guy would. I'd be scared if I'm Caleb. You think that Notre Dame fan on the field is scary? This guy, yeah, he's probably peeking in his window right now. Anyway,
he might show up for Halloween with Caleb's face on his face
and fingernails.
Yeah, he paints his fingernails just like Caleb. Hey, real quick, guys, we're about to go into like the stat over unders. Should be a ton of fun. Make sure you like the video, but I want you guys to comment along. I want to know what you guys think in the chat. If you guys think it's over under and why you think it is or it isn't. It should be a lot of fun. We're going to talk about a lot of different players. Let's start with Jaquindon Jackson, over under 77.5 rushing yards. And this is from Action Network. That's where I got this number for Jaquindon Jackson. I'm going to just jump right in. I think we've all made it really clear that running the ball on offense is a huge part of the game. I think the only game where Jaquindon Jackson wasn't a straight superstar was the Florida game, where he just struggled a little bit, and some of that was injury, it seems like. Outside of that, UCLA, he didn't get a ton of yards, but I believe that was the game he got injured early on in the game. I think Jaquindon Jackson is going to blow this over-under out of the water. Like I said, I expect 25 to 30 rushes for Jaquindon Jackson in this game, and it is really rare that anyone holds Jaquindon Jackson to under 4 yards per rush. I would expect him to be more in the 5 yards per rush, 6 yards per rush range against USC. That's what he does best, is make not physical teams look soft. So that's what he's going to do. I think he's closer to 150 than he is to 100. So what do you guys think? Larry, let's start with you.
Yeah, I think he's gonna break 100 in this game. I think he's gonna get that probably before the third quarter. I think he's gonna break off 1 to 2 really good runs, just in the first half, kind of like he did to seal the game last year. I think.
Oh, that huge run! Yeah, that was a good run.
And he popped his helmet, and we couldn't double up. Yep.
The poet says if it's under, we are in trouble. Depends. It could be, but if Vaki's the one making it under because he's racking up yards, I mean, that's not the worst thing in the world. So not 100% across the board. Wild, what are you thinking, man? JJ over under 77.5.
I'm with the poet. Like if JJ's under 77.5, I don't think we win this game. Like I'm pretty confident we lose this game. Like it has to be over 77.5. I think that he's probably around 100 to 110. I think Vaki, is good for, 40, 50 maybe. So yeah, I think that it's an over on this one. And like as Ute fans, it has to be an over, right? If we're predicting wins in this game, right? Like this is like the most important part of the game right here. If it's under, we're totally screwed. Like in Vaki, I know we're probably not going to get into it too much, but like I like Vaki getting some carries, but I get scared. He's too good of a defensive player to give too many runs to. The running backs get hurt all the freaking time. We don't want to lose Vaki, so we got to be careful with Vaki too. But for JJ here, it's going to be over 110.
Cool. Perfect. And Brian, let's hear what you think, man.
I'm the same. USC does not. They have a pretty good defensive front, but they don't. It's like they go balls to the wall and try to get that showtime play, those sacks, those interceptions. That just happens all over their defense. It's the type of players they recruit. So what do you figure is going to happen? They don't want to get aggressive. They want that showtime. They want that bag. They want that media attention. So one thing they don't do is they don't get physical in the running game, and teams can run on them, and we will get very physical. we really figured out our offensive line last week by putting Coley in at center. That seemed to gel the unit. And then who played left tackle for the most part in place of Fano?
Tuopi or
yeah,
Tuopu?
Things just seemed to work better in the running plays. We had some really good pulling guards that were sealing the inside, of their opposing side basically, and we were getting second level blocks. And I think it's going to continue to happen next week. USC gives up a lot of yards rushing, as I mentioned in the opening. I think we're going to see over 150 yards rushing by JJ alone. And then, sprinkle Vaki in, maybe 15 to 20 rush attempts with him. Like you were saying, probably 25 to 30 with JJ. And we're going to be 250 to 300 yards rushing again.
Oof.
Oh, that'd be nice.
I love it.
In a perfect world, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't
This
see.
is a perfect world right here. Let's be honest.
I really believe that's a huge key to the game. If we can be 250 plus rushing yards, I don't see a lot of scenarios where we lose this game. I just think it'll be really tough for Caleb to get hot if we have the ball that much. So really exciting. Utes production says, nah, bro, USC's defense is so soft. JJ needs to have a great game. Baki needs to be a weapon, not the weapon. I love that statement. JJ
basically what we just said, yeah.
Yeah, JJ needs to have a good game if we want to stand a chance. I think we're all on board with that. JJ is really the key to this offense without Cam, and he needs to have a good game against USC. So let's move on to the next guy, the next over-under. Like I said, make sure you guys follow along in the comments. Tell us if you think it's over-under. I'm going to start with this one, and this might be a slightly unpopular opinion, but I am going to go under for Vaki. I think last week was awesome. It was super impressive, and I believe he is a super talented player. I just don't see him getting quite the volume of carries this week. I know that in the press conferences, Witt said they had a lot of packages for Vaki, but I think even 12 carries for Vaki, that's a lot of carries. Like, that's not a small number. It's a big part of the offensive game plan. Like Wild Ute said, I don't think we want to drive this guy into the ground when he's such a big part of the defense. So I think if JJ's running the ball effectively and we get up a little bit, it won't be surprising to see Jalen Glover get worked in more on the snaps. I just don't see him getting more than 10 to 12 carries. That's just my guess. Also, I think last week was a really impressive showing by Vaki, but I also think it was a bit of a not an anomaly, but just a rare performance where a guy just goes off, right? I think he just had a special game, and so that's what I'm thinking with Vaki. I think it'll be under more in the 40, 45 yards range. So that's what I'm thinking. Wild, what do you think, man?
I'm thinking under. And I'm thinking like maybe 7 carries max for Vaki for the reasons that we've been talking about. I want to see Jalen Glover get going. Like, I mean, we love this Vaki and stuff. He's physical, he's fast. But like his future is at safety. Like, he is an NFL safety and everything. So we don't want an NFL safety playing a lot of running back. And so give him some touches, but not too many touches. And get Glover going. Seriously, if we can get Glover going and have this 3-headed monster and just pound him. And like, I saw Utes production, his last comment said like the physicality of the game, that USC was so soft. If you guys think that USC is going to be playing soft in the first half, you're wrong about that. You guys, we beat USC multiple times in a row. They want this game. They're going to be playing so physical that first half. I'm telling you, like, it's going to be an absolute war. We had to out physical them in the third and fourth quarter. I mean, just like we did in the championship game, we have to make them hurt in the fourth quarter. That's really the key to this thing. But it is going to be a slugfest. And so Vaki under 40. Let's say Glover, ideally around 52. If like these guys had 50-50, that'd be sweet. But that's I'm under on Vaki.
Yeah, and I think you make a great point. I think Jalen Glover works really well against this style of defense, right? He's just this thick little muscle hamster of a running back, and he's just going to get in between the tackles and just pound the rock. So that's what I see. Brian, you're up next, man. What do you think for Vaki, over, under?
Over, all day long, over. I think he's going to get at least 15 touches again. He is going to be well over 5 yards a carry again. And there's reasons why I say this. I mean, he has the speed, the vision. He's a powerful runner. So when he does meet contact, he can get an additional 5 yards. But he sees the holes and he makes the right cuts. He looks like a running back back there, legit a running back. And I mean, he's a safety his whole career. And he has breakaway speed. So I think Vaki is actually going to break another big one this game. Maybe not a 72-yard touchdown, but kind of like that first kind of little I can't remember if it was a little draw or something off the left tackle where he went for, what was it, almost 40 yards that first run. I could see something like that. I mean, that's one play getting near that, over that 50-yard mark. So I think they use him at least 15 rushes, 15 touches this game.
Well, it's hard to argue with that, Brian. Good points. And Vaki definitely is a powerful, strong, explosive runner. Larry, what are you thinking, man? Vaki over under 50 rushing yards?
I think over. I mean, he's only going to need, there's three plays to get the 50.
3 plays. Jeez, we better give him 100 carries then.
Yeah, but I'm saying that guy, I mean, he had, he actually, even if you took away his last long run, he still had 80 yards on 14 carries.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that alone. Not only that, they weren't using him like a running back when they first started. They brought him in for short situations, ran him right up the middle. Mm-hmm. The plays were designed to hit A-B gaps. They weren't to bounce it, to find a hole. Once they were like, hey, what can you do when you find a hole? Like, holy crap. So I think they're going to do it again. I think if he gets under 10 touches, unless Barnes throws for 250, I think we're in trouble. Jalen can't carry this team. And actually, it brought up a point to me, guys. Remember back the Baylor game, Bryson was in there and he wasn't doing too bad. But as soon as JJ went out, Bryson went to crap. They brought Nate in. Nate was doing okay. And when JJ came back, that's when Nate really did good. So if you go back to that Baylor game, I mean, JJ's the key to me, and I think Vaki is to spell, and I think JJ and Vaki are going to wear him down, and I think we're just going to pound the ball in the fourth quarter. So I think he's going to go over. I think he's going to get it.
Good points there,
I say
Larry.
this
Those
too.
are good points.
I think they'll mix Glover in with that. I'm not saying Glover's not a part of the game, but he's more of just kind of a strong, powerful runner where you can run in between the tackles, help wear him down, take some of that load off JJ, which opens things up for our 2 best running backs.
And
Yeah, go for it, Larry.
I did need to bring up another point. I watched the Notre Dame game. Bear Alexander. Us trying to run up through the middle is going to be, that guy was taking on double blocks and still could get his arm out there. So I don't know if we're going to be running up the middle as much as we should off tackle and off guard, because he was a beast. So anyway,
that Notre Dame offensive line, that's a good offensive line. So
yeah. So
what about this, guys? What about JJ and Vaki on the field at the same time, like speed option?
Yes,
that'd be cool.
Yes,
I mean, honestly, just think about that. That is dangerous stuff.
Inject that into my veins.
We need it.
Wishbone, screw it. Bring Glover in. Let's run the wishbone.
Right?
Oh, I actually wanted to touch on that just because someone, Brian, I thought you made some great, or Larry, I actually thought you made some great points. It was, you are right. I did notice when Jalen had to be the guy, as much as I like him and I think the ceiling's there, it did feel like the offense kind of crumbled a little bit, where I don't know exactly what was going on, if he doesn't have the same breakaway these other guys have. I'd say the number one thing is it doesn't seem like he breaks tackles at the same rate that JJ does, and I think that's the number one problem I see. But I did notice what you're talking about, so I think that was a really good point. Hopefully Glover becomes the monster we all hope that he can be, but in the times where he had to be the guy this year. I think he's more of a rotation guy right now than he is the, every down guy.
Well, he's
All
not
right.
very good in pass protection either. So that's
his,
part of the
his
problem.
pass blocking grade is really bad.
Yeah.
It's like the worst in college football. All right, Utah rushing TDs over under 2.5. I don't think we'll need to spend a ton of time on this one after listening to our previous conversations. I'm going to smash the over. I don't think we'll let Bryson Barnes determine our fate at the goal line. And I think the whole game plan of this game is going to be to pound the rock, make it happen, and just make USC crumble by halftime. They are just not wanting to deal with our run. Brian, you go first on this one. What do you think?
Yeah, over. Same thing. I mean, I think if we get around the goal line at all, it's going to be. I mean, it could be Barnes running it in too, but I don't think we're going to actually have him roll out and do any play action, any bootlegs at the goal line. I think it's going to be more power running up the middle and pushing them around.
Good point. Larry, what do you think?
I'm going to have to go with the over. If we're going to get the win, I think we're going to have 3 rushing touchdowns. So I'm going to go with the over.
Agreed. And Wild, you?
Under. I think we'll get 2 rushing touchdowns here. I think that Bryson Barnes has to deliver 2 touchdowns to the air for us to win the game. I think they're going to be short passes.
We can also do that.
Damn. Well, now you got me nervous, Wild. You, geez, dude. If we need,
we can go over on both.
Yeah, I just don't. I mean, I think that USC is going to sell out for the run, guys. We all know that, right?
Yeah.
They're going to sell out. So, like, getting, especially near the goal line and everything, there's going to be a short passing game that's open. I think Bryce needs to make some plays. We have to take some risks because I don't think that. I mean, 3 touchdowns on the ground would be amazing. I wouldn't bet on it. I would say 2. So I'm under on this one. We need somewhat of an air attack, right? Like, we don't need a lot. We don't need Caleb Williams. We just need some, 5-yard passes here.
No, those are really good points. And I actually agree. There are going to be plays where Bryson Barnes does need to complete a clean pass and do a good job. I don't see it being at the goal line. So that's where I disagree. All right. The next is Utah rushing yards. Is going to be another one I think we can go over quickly, but maybe we'll see some back and forth here. I think for me, this is clearly an over. I think there's a chance it's the under, but we don't win this game if it's the under. This is what we need to do to win this game. We need to have I don't know if we can do quite what we did against Cal, where the stat line just looks ridiculous. I think we're going to pound the rock. We're going to make USC suffer throughout the game. We are like we talked about earlier, ball control, time of possession, JJ running between the tackles, making them pay, Baki bouncing some explosive runs outside, Jalen Glover getting some rotation carries, getting in there and just making these guys by the mid-third quarter not want to go shoulder pad to shoulder pad with our guys is a huge key to the game. Brian, what do you think?
Yeah, over. I kind of stated it earlier, what I thought we'd get, and I said 250 to 300, so over that 225. Yeah, not much else to say.
And Wild, we'll go to you next.
I'm over, but pretty close, like around 240 in total rushing yards, and we need it, if we're going to win the game. So I'm on the over.
Cool. I actually agree with you a lot. Not that I wouldn't love for us to have 300 yards, but that's a rare rushing performance. That's like exceptional. So, Larry, what do you think?
Yeah, I think we're gonna pop around 250 at minimum. I think. Yeah.
Cool. All right, the next one. I think this is actually a very fun, interesting one. Bryson Barnes under 125 yards. Has Bryson?
Was it 195 or 125?
Yeah, 195.
Is 195 or 120?
195.
195.
195.
125 would be too easy. Come on.
Maybe.
I mean, damn. Let's set the bar a little higher. So I'll go first on this one. Bryson Barnes, I think when he's clicking, he can click really well. I'm going to go under on this one. It's not because I think he'll have a bad game. It's because I don't think we're going to put the game in his hands enough for him to need to get 195 yards. I think he'll be in the range of 150 to 170 and maybe we'll talk about that in a minute, but maybe a score or two here or there. But I don't think he will get enough opportunities to get 195 yards, but I think he'll have a decent day. Larry, why don't you go first on this one?
I think he's going to be just under. I'm going to say he's going to be about 180 to 190. I think he's going to be just short. I think we're going to play ball control, keep Caleb off the field. So I'd say just slightly under, slightly.
No, that's good points. And Brian, why don't you go next?
I was going just slightly over. I was thinking like that 200-yard mark. I think that they're going to have to establish a lot more of that to get the running game going. So that's going to be a focal point for Ludwig, is to get the receivers involved. Probably a lot of Mikey Matthews, to be honest. I think he'll have a good game. So 200 yards over.
All right, good points. And Wild U, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm looking here at the Bryson Barnes stat line, and I'm not sure he's ever gotten over 195 in a game.
No, I don't think so.
I'm like looking at like it's in the hundreds, or yeah, I don't see how you could say that he's going to go over 195 in this game. I just don't see that. He doesn't need to for the Utes to win. Like Joseph, like you mentioned too. Like if he has 150 to 175 and some good passes for shorter touchdowns, we can get this one. But it can't be on Bryson Barnes if we're going to win this game.
Fair. We agree. All right. All right. The next one. This is kind of a fun one. I just threw this in just because it popped in my head. I think someone touched on it earlier that Bryson Barnes is a good runner, and we'll probably utilize him with some options or some stuff like that and some rollouts. Bryson Barnes over 39.5 rushing yards. And sorry to just surprise you guys with this one, but I just thought it was a fun one to talk about. I see this as the over. I see him in the 45, 50 rushing yards. I think they're going to be so focused on our running backs once we start pounding this rock, and the game will not be on Bryson's shoulders. And so he'll have some opportunities to break away some 5-10 yard runs here and there. Brian, why don't you go first on this one?
Yeah, I mean, sacks are included in the running yards, and it depends on how many sacks he takes. That's where I struggle here, because USC, their defensive line does put pressure on the quarterback. I think they're one sack under what Utah has this year. I think they have 21 sacks on the year. So they will sack the quarterback, and we have given up a ton of sacks at like a 10% snap rate this year. So I'm going to go under.
Okay, good points. The USC definitely does have a powerful defensive line. Wild U, what do you think?
I'm going the under here. I think it's like around 25 yards. And like the sack comment was a good one. I just don't think that Bryson's going to have that many opportunities to necessarily take and run. I think we're going to be handing it off to JJ and Vaki and Glover so much that really won't be that many opportunities just to take and run. Hopefully not. So I just kind of see that with the sack yardage considered, less than 39.5.
So, and just the comments on what Brian was saying. So Utah and USC are actually tied for sacks, but USC has played one more game than
One more game. That's right.
So we got a little advantage there. All right. And Larry, what do you think? Over under 39.5?
I think under. I don't think they're going to put him in a lot of situations to have to run the ball too much. So I think it's going to be under. I think he's only going to have probably 25, 30 yards with sack adjusted. So.
Cool.
Yep.
All right, and then real quick, we'll touch on the Cam Rising stuff. I think most of us agree it's more likely than not that he is not in the game. But if he is in there, what do you guys think? Over, under 255 passing yards? I'm going to go under. Cam's a great player, but usually it's not a huge passing yardage line. He usually has like 60, 70 rushing yards, something like that, and then a good chunk of passing yards. So I'm going to say it's more like 235 if he's in. Also, he's coming off the injury. He needs to, take a game or two to get back. So that's what I'm thinking. Larry, what do you think?
I don't think he's thrown for under 300 yards in the 3 games he's played them. So there's no way I could take the under. I think he's had 2 300s and 1 400.
Really?
No way. He's good for 3 bills. if he's in.
Yeah, Joseph, I'm with Larry here. I think that Rising just goes bazooka. If he plays, right? And just goes, 300.
Well, he throws it at the non-tackling defenders, which kind of helps his stats. So, yeah.
And maybe that's just my heart, like saying that, but I'm just like, Rising is going to tear him up. If he plays in this game, like I would be concerned about re-injury, but like until that happened, I think that he'd tear him up, even with some rust.
It's a good point, Larry. Yeah, I forgot how many passing yards he had in those other 2 USC games. So maybe you changed my mind there. All right. And then it sounds like we already got Wild Utes' opinion. So, Brian, what do you think?
I would say under. I'm gonna disagree on this one just because I think it would be more offensive play calling related, and I don't think that they would probably call enough plays where Cam can actually make that kind of passing yardage. So I'm just gonna say under. It's not. Who cares? I mean, just throw this one out the window. It's not going to happen. Nobody will know what the actual answer ever is.
Fair. If Cam does play over under 2.5 passing TDs, I'm going to say over because Larry inspired me to look up the stats from the other 2 USC games, and it was well over. So that's where I'm at. Larry, what do you think on this one?
Oh, yeah. Yep, over.
Man, those were some special performances, weren't they?
They were his 3 best games ever.
That first one, you guys remember 2021, that flea flicker right before the half to Devon Vele? That was like where you were like, okay, all right, this Cam Rising guy, he's pretty special. Wild, what do you think?
I'm the over too. I think Rising really torches if he comes out there. We've seen it before. Like, he just has this knack for playing USC tough, so I'm definitely going over 2.5 passing touchdowns.
Perfect. And Brian, if it were to happen in the hypothetical world, what would happen?
Over.
All right, we're all on the same page. All right, now let's talk about the interesting ones for USC. It's going to be for Caleb Williams, guys. Caleb Williams in this game, how does it go down? The over-under, and this is from Action Network, they have his over-under at 274.5. When I saw that line, I was actually – I know that's not a low number, but I was pretty optimistic to see that. Yeah, that's what I thought too. It's like that's their whole game plan is to just air it out with Caleb Williams. I think if he's getting 275-ish, we're winning that game. I don't think we're losing that game. So I'm going to go ahead. I look at this, and let's go over the over-under for passing yards first, and then we'll go over passing TDs afterwards. But I'm going to go ahead and say that he is I didn't think about this one. Why don't we come back to me? I want to think about it for a minute. Wild, you take this one first.
Yeah, I think Caleb Williams, if he's under on this one, then Utes win the game. I mean, this would be massive, if he's less than 275. I mean, Williams puts up like 400 a game, and like, so this is this is mad respect for the Utes is even having a line like this. Mm-hmm. So because I'm going to pick the Utes to win, I'm going to say under. But if I'm not a Ute fan, then I'm probably saying over, right? That's kind of how I would pick this at least. So interesting line. Cool.
Brian, you're up next.
How about just slightly over? How about I'm thinking 300 passing yards, right around that mark. So they passed for about 370 to 380. I can't remember the figure per game. I know Utah gives up about 240 through the air, and that seemed like a lot to a lot of fans this year. But, our defense has been rock solid. And if we can give up 300, that's not that terrible. I mean, I think we can still hold them under 30 points, and that's going to be my key for Utah winning is keeping them under 30.
Good points. Larry? I think we might have lost Wild Ute. I wonder where he went. All right, Larry?
Yeah. Oh, there he is.
Oh, there he is.
I'm thinking under, just slightly under. I think the way the game's going to go with the control, I just don't think he's going to have a lot of yardage. I think he's going to be probably around 250 to 260 is what I figure.
What did Notre Dame hold him to?
200.
Wow. Damn.
Yeah. Which was really strange to me because when you think about I mean, they shut down Zachariah Branch, and it's not like Notre Dame's got a bunch of little shifty corners either. They're pretty big guys, and they held Zachariah Branch down, which I was kind of shocked. So, yeah.
Well, what was I about to say? Dang it. I lost my train of thought, but I'm actually going to go with the over as well. Brian, I think I agreed with you. You made a good point. I think it'll be just slightly over in like 285-ish. But I think what's going to happen is a little bit of that's going to be garbage time. Where we're playing bend, don't break. Not garbage time, but, where we're playing off and they're doing a little bit of dink and dunk to try to move down the field. Kind of like Florida, where it was like they were getting a lot of yards, but if you were watching the game, it didn't feel like they were doing a great job. So that's where I'm at. Now let's move on to passing touchdowns, over under 2.5. I am going to smash the under on this one. I think 1 or 2. I think it's going to be important that we do not let this offense score a ton of points. And I think that's going to be preventing the big plays, making sure Caleb does not score a lot. The yards are going to happen, but I think preventing the touchdowns. We have one of the better red zone defenses in the country. We have one of the best defenses in the country, elite defense. I don't see him getting more than 2 touchdowns on us. Larry, why don't you start us off on this one?
Yeah, I'm going to go over. I think all 3 touchdowns that they get are going to be thrown in. I don't think they're going to run anything in. So I'm going to go over. I'm going to say they get 3. Caleb throws 3.
Perfect. All right, Brian, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm going over. I'm actually very similar to my thought process, very similar to what Larry was thinking as well. I think they get 4 touchdowns. I think they're all through the air. We'll give our score predictions at the end, but I think they get 4 passing touchdowns from Caleb Williams over.
And Wild Ute?
Yeah, I'm going with the under on this one. I think that the Utes are going to contain the big play, make them drive the field. When the red zone, we're in the red zone, we're going to shrink the field on them and stuff and make them have to run the football. So I think that he's probably looking at 2 touchdown passes. And that needs to be the game plan too. So I think that give up 2, but no more than that.
I mean, I like your prediction and Joseph's better. So if
it was like these are things like that are going to be like the difference between winning and losing. Like, let's be honest, our margin for error isn't great here. Like, so if Caleb goes off for over 2.5, we are in trouble. Like, if he throws for 4 touchdowns, we're in trouble. And like, we just can't give that up. I don't think we can give it up. Like, that's 28 points right there, without even anything considered. So you gotta hold it 2. So I think that the Utes will do it.
I agree 100%. All right. Then the next guy is Marshawn Lloyd. And I think this is, when I was doing the breakdown, dude, talk about an underappreciated running back here. This guy is a super highly graded running back on PFF, and he's averaging 7.5 yards a carry on the season. The guy is legit. I think if you guys are not aware of him already, you should check him out. He's not getting a ton of carries, but he's got 600 yards on the season with not a lot of carries. Yeah, it's 565 yards in the season rushing. So he's very deadly player. Over under 60.5 rushing yards. As much as I do think this guy is very talented, I do not think he breaks 60 rushing yards. I'm going to go with the under. I just think our defense is going to be focused on stopping the pass, and that is going to be our number one concern. And this guy will break off 1 or 2 runs, but I think he's going to get a lot of stops at the line. And, 1 or 2 10-yard runs is not going to make a stat line that's over 60, and we keep him on the under. Why don't you start us off with this one?
This guy is a smooth running back. I mean, he's a good player. Watching him, like he doesn't get enough touches. I think he's going to have a good game. I see him around 100 yards rushing, guys. I think this is way over for me. I think that we're going to be focusing on the pass so much. They're going to draw. They're going to run this guy a lot. And I could see him approach 100 yards in this game. And you know what? That's not the worst thing. Like, you're letting somebody else beat you. You can't let Caleb Williams beat you. So if Marshawn gets around 100 yards and we win the game, so be it. But that's how I see it.
Cool. Good points. All right, Brian, you're up next.
Yeah, I think under on this one as well. our defense gives up about, what was it, like 66 rushing yards per game on average. We've held the best running teams in the Pac-12 under that mark. I just don't see USC getting above that. I've watched a lot of Marshawn's runs, and a lot of them have been against really poor defense where he reverses field and there's just nobody there. That's hard to do against a really disciplined defense like Utah has. So I'm going to go under.
Those are all good points. And Larry, what do you think?
I think he's going to get over, but we're talking, I don't think he's going to get over 75. I think he's going to be under 75. I think he'll get a few decent ones, but for the most part, just a little over, but not by much.
You know what's crazy too? When you look at the game log for USC, I think this is my first time actually like really looking at it in a defense perspective. I was just looking at it for Marshawn Lloyd because Brian was saying he played not good defenses. Notre Dame's really the only good defense they play. Like outside of that, it's San Jose State, Nevada, Stanford, ASU, Colorado, and Arizona. Those are like all pretty. I mean, are any of those good defenses?
I think Nevada might be the worst FBS team in the country, and that's not a joke. I'm serious. I really think they might be.
What was his stats against Notre Dame, Joseph, if you got that right there?
For Marshawn?
Yeah, what was his carries and yardage?
8 for 46. His worst game was actually against San Jose State. I was breaking him down the other night. But he didn't get a ton of carries against Notre Dame, but he actually was like 5.8 yards a carry.
Okay.
Yeah. Which would probably be the same sort of deal where we're selling out to stop the pass. He gets just under 60 rushing yards. So hate to call you wrong there, Wild U, but you know.
And they were playing from behind early on. I mean, they were down 24-3 quickly. So they're gonna with their offense and Caleb Williams, they're not gonna want to run the ball. They're gonna want to air it out. So and they tried and threw more interceptions. So
do you guys remember like back in the 2019 Kansas City Chiefs when like Mahomes had Tyreek Hill, Kelsey, and they're just so explosive? Then all of a sudden, they defenses for a year stopped them. They played a 2-deep shell defense, like basically like press cover and stuff with 2 safeties way back there. They gave up the run, they gave up the short pass, and that happened game after game. I just think versus USC, that's how you play them. You don't give up any long balls, guys. You just don't do it. You lose that way. So if you're going to give 100 to Marshawn, so be it. If you're going to give up a bunch of short passes, so be it. Make them run the field. Make them get in the red zone. Don't give up you play like Mahomes. You don't give up the big play. Like, so I think that's actually a really promising stat if they're feeding him a lot. And he's, not getting a ton of yards per carry necessarily, but just getting a lot of rushes here because of how the Utes are playing. So that's how I see it.
No, good points. All right. And then Connor Johnson here, I just wanted to shout him out in the chat. He said, the U is better than fight on. I think that's what he was trying to say there. So I agree. All right. And then next, we're going to give our final predictions, guys. Before we do, if you guys are watching the video right now, please smash that like button. These guys are awesome for coming on the channel and putting in the work they do to create the content. I can't appreciate these guys anymore. Great group of guys and a lot of fun we have talking with you guys. So make sure you smash the like button, comment down in the chat. If you're watching after the fact or live, we'd love to hear your opinions. Also, subscribe to the channel. We put out a ton of Utah Utes football content. I am mentally dead from how many videos I've made this week. And also share the video with someone as well, if you wouldn't mind. Final predictions. Let's talk about how we actually think this game does go and what we think the final score is. Wild, you go for it.
Yeah, I think that the Utes play a physical football game from the very beginning of the game. I think that they pound it on the ground like we're talking. I think Bryson Barnes executes some short passes, gets 2 throw touchdowns. There's 2 running touchdowns, let's say, and both of them go to JJ. Utes score 28 points. Utes do not kick a field goal, and that's strategic. You can't afford to kick field goals in this football game. You take risks, you go for touchdowns, you get stopped. That's got to be the mentality. I think it will be the mentality. So 28 points for the Utes. And that way, I think Caleb Williams gets 2 touchdowns, and then maybe Marshawn, one of the running backs, gets 1. There's 21. They get 2 field goals. I think we're going to stop in the red zone a couple of drives. We're going to get 2 field goals, and we win 28-27. And it's going to be a total nail biter. So you guys, it's always a nail biter versus these guys, but really I think that we wear them down in the fourth quarter. We punch in a late score just with the physicality and win this game, 28-27.
Good prediction. Did you, did you see in our group chat that I posted that the numbers at the surface level showed that Utah wins 28-27?
I didn't see that. No, that was just intuition right here.
Oh, great comments, dude. That was good stuff. Good stuff. All right, Larry, let's go to you next, man.
Yeah, I think we're going to be kicking a lot of field goals. Kyle Whittingham I'm not thinking he's going to let him, he's not going to try and push the ball in. And I don't know if we can run it in from too far out. I'm thinking 30-27. And I think it's just a slobber knocker of a game. I think we get a lot of stops. We run the ball pretty good, mixed in with some sneak plays and just enough passing to keep it honest. 30-27.
Man, I think we're all going to have really similar predictions by the end of this. All right, and Brian, go for it.
So yeah, mine's not too far off, especially on their score. I think we do enough offensively. I think our offense looks very similar to how it did last week, where we put up 34 and really should have put up over 40 that game. We had opportunities and missed another field goal. That was a pretty easy chip shot. So I think we look very similar to slightly better. I think that passing game looks better. I think Bryson Barnes throws for a couple touchdowns. In the running game really opens up and we get 38 points is my prediction.
Woo!
Defense. Well, I mean, guys, they're a very similar defense to Cal, maybe slightly worse.
Booming Bryson Barnes out here, dude. He's about to be throwing for 300.
I haven't thrown for 200. I said 2 touchdowns and 200 yards.
All right.
And then our defense continues to do what our defense has done. I was initially going to say 38-27, but since I already said Caleb Williams is throwing for 4 touchdowns, I have to go up 1 point and go 38-28 Utah.
Love it.
It's a bold prediction. Those are good. I think I have a similar score to Larry and Wild Ute, more than I have us scoring a ton of points. I see us pounding the rock. I think early in the game, Miles Battle or Travis Broughton is going to make a mistake, and there will be a big play by Caleb Williams. I've seen too much tape from them to think otherwise. And then as we get going, there's also going to be scores where it's just, I mean, this receiver core is legit, dude. If you guys aren't aware, this is a mean receiver core. Zachariah Branch is one of the most impressive eye tests that I've seen. He looks like a gazelle on the football field, dude. I don't want to, spend too much time on it, but they're going to make some plays on us. Just even if coverage is perfect, they're going to make some plays. But as the game gets going, I think we could head in half like 14-10, 14-14 with a good running show in the first half. But I think what's going to happen is what happened last year, where as the game gets going, the physicality breaks USC down. These runs go from 4 to 5 yards to 20 yards to 30 yards. There's going to be some broken tackles that turn into giant runs. USC players are there for the NIL money. They're not there to win football games. We're here to win football games and drive Dodge Ram trucks. So I see us grinding this one out in the first half, blowing away in the second half. Still a really tough game. Probably the score shows that it's closer than it actually is, with some late points by USC with Caleb Williams making some magic. 31-28 Utah. So that's where I have it, guys. This was a ton of fun, dude. This was a great stream. Thanks so much for all you guys tuning in. Like I said, like the video, comment down below, subscribe, share the video. Do you, Larry, anything you want to say before we get out of here?
Yeah, it was just, so should most of these USC guys play for Dion because they make a lot of business decisions, right? Mm-hmm. So that's about all I got.
USC and Colorado have really similar defenses. All right, Wild Ute, any final words from you?
Yeah, actually, I just open up one last question, guys. So, like, this news that Dan Patrick brought up about the USC
Yeah.
Cam or Caleb Williams and also Lincoln Riley possibly going to the Bears together, and Riley actually wanting to make that move. Is that a big enough distraction to cause any USC issues during this football game?
I would say
Football
Caleb
issues.
Williams in general doesn't seem like he wants it as bad this year. Like that interview where he was talking about how everyone wants to walk in his 12 and a halves, whatever he said. It just felt, didn't he sound uninterested? He sounded like he's
Checked out.
better than this game, like that he shouldn't be playing college football. At least that's how I felt. I wouldn't be shocked to see Lincoln Riley leave. I mean, Caleb Williams is his meal ticket. Not that he hasn't made some great quarterbacks, but they don't play defense. Like, go with your guy and go figure it out. What were you going to say, Brian?
Did you see my post that I did on Twitter when I was talking about his 12.5 shoes? I know a guy who's going to be in them all day
Jonah
long.
Ellis. I did see this.
Ellis, yeah.
I did see that.
It's kind of crazy you mentioned that, Philip. I don't know, man. Like, you hear about, if we win. Remember Oregon?
Mm-hmm.
The only reason we beat them in the championship was because Mario Cristobal was leaving. So we're gonna hear the same crap. They said the same thing about him in Oklahoma before he left. Oklahoma got bad because Lincoln Riley didn't care. So maybe actually, are we seeing? Could he possibly? Because I think Joseph's right. In that Notre Dame, he just did not look like he was there. Everything was so lazy. So I'm wondering
if he's not fully there and they're kind of half checked out, the Utes are going to win this football game, and it's gonna be really ugly physically.
Does this remind any of you guys a little? Speaking of Oregon, reminds me a little of 2021 Oregon.
Oh, yeah.
Ton of hype. I mean, not quite as much hype as Oregon, but like a softer team with a ton of talent. And they expected that we were just going to get the crap kicked out of us. And that is not what happened.
Yeah.
Can I throw something else out there?
Yeah.
It just kind of this conversation kind of reminded me of this. So their loss last week, in my opinion, probably put them out of the CFP because of their other very close losses in overtime and to Arizona State and the very close loss to Colorado.
They're not beating us, Washington, and Oregon.
I was off. But their close win against Arizona and their very close win against Colorado probably put him out of the CFP contention. So, and probably put him out of the Heisman. So this dude, he's going to be a top, if not the number one overall pick. He's not going to want to run around and get beat up by this Utah defense. I don't see him trying to scramble a whole lot this game if that's the case.
Well, and I was going to say, Brian, and on top of that, they're not beating us, Oregon, and Washington. Or they're not going to beat Oregon and Washington. So if they lose to us, done. It's just, and I don't think they want it. I mean, I think we all agree on that, right? They don't want it as bad as we do. You could feel it. It feels like half the team's not there for the right reasons. So I feel, dude, I don't know about you guys. Dude, this got me feeling good.
Are we just talking ourselves into this, guys?
Like, are they already going, hey, we're in the Big Ten yet next year? Are they already in the Big Ten? They're not watching the Pac-12.
Talk about their last chance to win a conference championship. Good luck, USC. Oh, God. Can you imagine?
I mean, it's going to be brutal on anyone, though.
Well, think about us. We're in the
same boat.
Well, think about us. We're a good football team. And, yeah, for sure we had some players opt out. But look at how we looked against Penn State. I mean, Penn State's probably the second or third best team in the Big Ten. And I think they're incredible. Like, I would not want to be playing Penn State every year. So I don't see how USC's winning another conference championship if it's not this year, at least for 5-10 years.
Well, until they find a defense.
Yeah, they'll put out a help wanted ad. All right, dude. Well, sounds good. Let's get out of here, guys. Ton of fun tonight. Like the video, comment, subscribe, share. I'm out, guys. Go Utes.
Go Utes.